Hello everyone, my name is Eirik and welcome back into the studio here in Florence, Italy. Today we're going to finish our casting of the Young Slave master copy that we did. We've worked inside the open mold so far and we've made a plaster casting, but the mold is still in two halves, and today we're going to close the mold and turn it into one casting. Then we're going to retouch the seams and make the sculpture ready for prime time. If you're interested in seeing more and learning from me directly, check out my Patreon page linked below. But for now, let's get into some casting. Time to close the mold in earnest. The mold is laying open on the table and the plaster inside has been allowed to set overnight. This makes sure that it's plenty strong and we don't have problems during the flipping of the mold. Keep a hand inside the mold and make sure the casting and the silicone doesn't fall out, and flip one half over onto the other. Make sure both halves are free of dust and debris before doing this to make sure nothing interferes with a good fit. If stuff is laying inside the half you're flipping, it can fall onto the silicone seam and sort of mess up the fit, if you will. Since we cut the silicone with a knife with a registration groove, the silicone halves fit back together snugly and without much effort or convincing needing to take place, which is exactly what we're after, of course. Make sure that there are no gaps along the seam before taping the mold shut. And if there is some gaps, open the mold again and see if you can address the issue. Usually rasping away a little bit of the excess plaster that interferes with the fit is all that it takes. I use brown packing tape to close the mold or hold the two halves together rather. Brown packing tape is preferred because as compared to duct tape, for example, it doesn't stretch over time and is plenty strong for this appliance. Duct tape would be overkill and you'll be spending more money than you need to, and it's frankly not so good if you're storing your molds either, because it does stretch over time and the mold will stop being held together tightly. Inside the mold you can see where we have gaps where the two mold halves meet. This is what we're going to fill with plaster, and we're also going to have burlap travel across this gap to ensure the two halves are properly bonded to each other and don't come apart. To make it easier, I've put the mold up on its end when doing this step, which is bonding the two halves together. To keep it stable, it's placed against something strong like the side of a table or a sturdy sculpture stand in this scenario. This helps a little bit since I don't need to bend over so much when working inside the mold, and I can look down into the mold and see what's going on in there a little bit easier, as opposed to having it lay sideways on the table and having to lean down and look inside of it, for example. There is a risk here of plaster leaking out the top of the mold, of course, so really make sure that your seams are nice and tight before trying this at home. And it can also be useful to do this over a bucket or cover your floors in plastic or something to catch potential leaks. Plaster is poured into the mold and I make sure the entire seam is covered with fresh plaster when doing so. This is going to make the seam go from a gap between the two halves, once we open the mold later, to a seamless, hopefully, plaster seam where the two halves were joined together. Where I can reach the seam, I'm going to brush plaster more vigorously into the seam, as this makes 100% sure that the seam is filled. Where we can reach, plaster is brushed over the surface, then pieces of burlap are added and laid across the seam to lock the two halves together. Remember, plaster on its own, maybe not strong enough, it could sort of crack apart. But in order to make sure that the two halves don't pop apart at a later date in a client's home, when their kids are playing with it, whatever, we're going to need the burlap to weld the two halves together into a solid piece. Normally, I'd make sure that the burlap was covering everywhere, all over the seam, and in a bigger mold, this would be much more likely or easy to achieve, or possible to achieve even, but in a smaller mold like this, we're going to have to live with pouring plaster into most of the seam and burlap only covering what little we can reach. When pouring in plaster, I'm not dumping a whole bowl of plaster into it at once. I'm going to pour little by little and then I'll rotate the piece to make sure that the plaster covers everywhere. Sometimes I'll pour parts of the plaster out before I pour it back in. This really helps make sure that there's less air bubbles trapped anywhere. To keep the mold from falling over with all the wet plaster inside, I'm going to tape it to the sculpture stand with the bottom surface as parallel to the ground as I can manage. Keeping the bottom of the mold level lets me fill the entire mold full and let the plaster level itself at the top. Bottom of the mold now being the top, of course, since the whole thing is turned upside down. This makes making sure the bottom is level much easier, and there is much less issue with the piece wobbling on the table later, for example, if you do this. Now you can of course sand the piece to make it flat on the bottom, but the bottom of the mold is already flat. So why not use it as reference for a perfectly flat bottom? This also makes sure that your figure is balanced and gestured in the same way that it was when you sculpted it. If you rasp or file the bottom flat, there's a chance that it might not be. After the casting has been allowed to sit overnight, we can open the mold. The longer you can let a plaster casting rest inside the mold, the better, frankly. Well, that's not entirely true since there are more factors to consider, but in terms of making sure the piece comes out of the mold, the longer you wait, the better. The plaster dries slowly and can take a full month to fully cure to its final hardness, especially once you fill it solid. After a day, the plaster can still be rather moist, and while hard to the touch, it can sort of be crumbly like a wet cookie or something like that. Having a slightly fresh plaster cast makes the seams easier to fix as the new plaster bonds more easily to the older plaster, but the piece is more fragile and there is more risk when removing the piece from the mold. An older piece that's been sitting in the mold longer is going to be harder and be able to take more of a beating as we demold, but it's going to be much harder and more difficult, if you will, to retouch as the plaster won't want to stick to it as readily and easily. So there's pluses and minuses to both approaches. The mold always comes off a casting much easier than it comes off the sculpture as it's been removed once before. Subsequent castings should become even easier. Notice how I'm removing the silicone very slowly. This is smart because it ensures the silicone doesn't rip. We don't know if it's stuck somewhere or perhaps if we have a spot that's a bit thinner than what we'd like. So if we rip the silicone off as quickly as we can, we might tear the silicone skin in the process. Better to take our time and go slow here. Going slow also ensures that the casting itself isn't broken during the demolding process. I like to work from the edges inwards and usually from the top to bottom or vice versa when removing the silicone. Sometimes I remove a little bit at the top, then a little bit at the bottom, and move back and forth between the two. It really depends on the silicone skin and the sculpture. It's best to let the silicone come off naturally where it wants, and it'll sort of release itself to a certain extent as the weight of the released silicone slowly pries on the silicone that's still stuck on the surface. There's a lot of weight in silicone, so you don't want to go overboard here, letting the silicone weigh itself down to the point of tearing. For bigger pieces, tearing is a potential issue, but for something as small as this, the silicone is not really heavy enough to tear itself apart because of its own weight, so not much of an issue. In particular, around the head and the raised arm, there are plenty of deep areas where the silicone is a little reluctant to come off, so be careful and take it slow. But come off it does. So today, the same day we opened the mold, one day after the casting was made, we're going to start reworking the plaster or retouching the plaster. So, retouching. This starts with the step of removing excess plaster left from the casting process. Since the plaster is fresh, we can do this fairly easily. The plaster is still soft and easy to adjust with simple tools that don't even have to be that sharp. Perhaps even a wood tool might do the work here, but I prefer a simple metal spatula, the same I would use to work with the plaster while it's in liquid form or cream cheese plaster form. When most of the excess plaster has been removed, we can start to think about adding plaster back, which ideally, if everything goes well, is going to be the final step in the retouching process. What you'd like to avoid here first and foremost is adding so much plaster back that you have to go back and remove more later. Try to be careful and not create more work for yourself during this step. In order to do this, it does help if the plaster is fairly fresh, which ours is. This casting is about 1 or 2 days old, and if the casting is any older, the plaster you add to the piece is going to have a really hard time sticking, and this is going to lead to it simply falling off as you try to sculpt it, resculpt it. It also makes it very hard to manipulate since the plaster is going to become dry or hard right away when you add it to the surface. You can circumvent this issue if you're working with old plaster, You can at least mitigate it by soaking the cast in a bucket of water for a little bit, or spraying it with lots of water over a period of time before starting to retouch. I will be spraying the cast with water anyways. I usually spray a bit of water back on the casting before starting to add plaster back to any section, because it just simply helps. In addition to spraying water on the casting, I also have a little cup of water next to me so that I can soak the tool and pick up some water on the tool and bring it to the casting. As I'm resculpting the plaster on the surface here, the plaster does dry out a little bit faster than what it normally would, even with all the precautions that we've taken. So when this starts to happen, dipping the tool in some water and then continuing to sculpt can help soften the plaster back up a little bit so that you can finish the job that you've started. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you learned a thing or two that you can take with you into your own practice. Please let me know what you thought about the video in the comments section below. And until next time, stay creative.